Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Carrie. I'm Carrie Lazat, your Director of Cable and Community Relations here in Bloomfield Township. And today I welcome our Treasurer, Michael Schostak. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Carrie.
Great to have you. Great to have you.
Thank you.
So I think one of the first things we want to talk about is our upcoming election and the millage that is on the ballot. And if you could explain, I think that it's a public safety millage, and I guess to be really succinct about it, if you vote yes, we maintain our funding. If you vote no, then the funding goes away. But if you can explain a little bit how it will really impact people's bottom line in the tax bill that they receive.
Sure. So we have 7 different voted millages that we go to the residents of the township for over the course of many years. And we have 3 for public safety directly. And so that's money that gets collected and directly goes into the public safety fund, which we use to obviously hire police officers, firefighter EMTs, our dispatchers, all of the equipment that they need to do their job, et cetera. And so the one that's up for renewal this year is the smallest of the 3 public safety millages. We're asking for renewal at 0.6474 mils, which means that's 64 cents for every $1,000 of taxable value of your home. Or personal property if you're a business. And that will collect, we estimate in the first year that we would collect the renewal, it would a little under $4 million, which goes into our fund. Like I said, that's the smallest one, and it makes up about 10% of our funding.
So why are there 3?
So they started at different times. Obviously the first
when different times we need money? Is that, or the fund needs money? Oh.
Correct. Okay. So unlike the federal government or the state government, where the legislature can just vote a tax increase anytime they wanted to, obviously there's political repercussions, but they have the ability to do that. We in local government have to go to our residents, our voters, for any time we want to levy a tax. And that has to be voted on under strict guidelines, correct language, et cetera, on the ballot. And so, it started, the first one was in 1976, was our first public safety millage, and then it gets renewed every 10 years. So that one will come up again in 2026. Some of them were 5 years, so they'll come up a little bit later than that. And then the third one, so we added a third one, I think it was 10 or 12 years ago, just because of the rising costs. And we're looking, we used to have 4, and we consolidated 2 of them into a third one, right? So there's the 2 became 1, so we still have 2 others, so there's 3 remaining.
So it's not anything new that's going to be added to people's bills, so that they're going to see pretty much the same tax rate that they've always been paying. It's going to be the same.
Correct.
And so if it doesn't pass for some reason, then how much of a reduction would they get? Like on a $300,000 home.
$180.
$180 difference. So, okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know. But we have to ask people to vote. That's why we do.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, this is going to produce a little under $4 million, which is 10% of our public safety budget. But we need every penny of that budget to be able to recruit and train and field our officers and our firefighter EMTs. We're going to need another dispatch person coming up here. We're looking at adding to the budget next year. So the number of runs that public safety sees is only increasing.
Right.
And so it's important that we have the ability to staff them appropriately, equip them appropriately, and let them do their job to keep us safe.
And I think in 2022, when we were talking about the millage at that time, they were focused on adding officers for road division, and at this point,
for traffic division.
For traffic,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And I think at this time, when I talked to the chiefs, it was just general fund.
Yeah, I mean, it's not earmarked
yeah.
for anything specific within public safety, but it does go towards that, and there is money in the budget. We have been trying to staff up a traffic division since that millage passed. Unfortunately, we're at a point in time now in this country where the number of people going into law enforcement is declining, and where when we had openings in the past, we used to have 100 applicants. Now we're single digits.
Well, and it's for fire as well. So
Same thing for fire,
police
yes.
and
Police and
fire both are having trouble.
Yeah,
and I will have to say, I just have to mention that we are been working on this really great fire video that tells a story of who Bloomfield Township is and the training that they received. But we've been working on it a long time because we've been we've been shooting little bits of all the training as it goes along. So people will be seeing that soon.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really excited. Maybe we'll end the video with that if it's ready in time. So this is August 6th is the primary, and so in the general election there won't be any millage. It's the August 6th. You got to show up for that, or you're going to miss out voting. Okay,
Yep.
So that's good to know. If you have more questions related to how to vote, where to vote, when to vote, your local clerk's office is the best place for that information, and the number is on your screen, so that you can find out more, or you just stop in and talk to them. They're super helpful over there. And if you have any treasury-related, tax-related questions, you can always call 248-433-7704, and someone from 7705. Call 248-433-7705, and someone from Michael's team will be able to answer those questions for you.
Or I'll be happy to take the call if any residents have questions about the millage, how it's used, how it's levied, et cetera.
It's great having residents stop in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always enjoy it. It's like one of the best parts. They just pop into the cable studio and see what's going on here in this cable studio. So I always invite people in, and you as well. Yeah. I mean, it's better. You got to make an appointment, but you're happy to talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk now. As we were, I think we were talking about millage, or there was some. There's a water assessment that's happening for certain residents in one of the neighborhoods, and I think that was what led me to talk to you a little bit more about the differences between cities and townships, because I think the big difference between that people understand is that townships, you pay less tax.
You pay a lower tax rate.
You pay a lower tax rate than you do in cities. And
depends on the value of your property to determine what your tax is going to be. In Bloomfield Township, we have pretty highly valued properties, and so the tax, the amount that you pay may be the same as you would pay in Royal Oak. It's just that you're getting more house for your money here.
Okay. So how many, in this ecosystem of Michigan, how many cities or townships, like where do we fall in that?
So townships are actually the predominant form of government. It actually...
in Michigan?
In Michigan,
okay.
Yes. So it dates back, the use of townships dates back to the settlers in the northeast of this country who came from England, and they brought up that limited form of local government, where the idea was that townships would deal with, the issues for the residents that are closest to them that they can best deal with, and the rest would go to counties and states. So the counties would be really the more administrative activity within the local government. And so here in Michigan, we've got in excess of 1,000 townships, and some of them are so small that they have 400 or 500 residents. That are in a township. The way that our townships got formed here in southeast Michigan was, of course, Detroit is where the settlers came and created the city of Detroit. And in the early 1800s, the Northwest Ordinance, I think, that said that we needed to divide the new land, which of course was not our land, but we divided up the land, and it was created into townships. And the townships here in Oakland County were 6 by 6 miles by 6 miles, so 36 square miles, forming a grid. And so Oakland County has 30 townships. Now, as people settled in those townships, they began to cluster, and those clusters wanted home rule powers, which means that they could decide how they want to be self-governed, and they formed and created cities. They incorporated as cities, and basically there's a process to do that, a vote of the residents, and some paperwork, and take that to Lansing, and you create a city.
So also, I mean, as far as the administration, we have a supervisor, and cities have mayors. Is that all? Is that standard in townships?
So cities have mayors. Now there's a couple different ways you see,
the hierarchy is different.
Right.
Bit,
so the mayor is the lead administrative
Top
official,
dog.
the CEO of the community. And sometimes we have working mayors, like in the city of Detroit, the city of Warren, Livonia, other places where the elected mayor works full time and manages the city.
Right.
Sometimes with or without a city manager that works with them. And then other smaller cities, let's say Keego Harbor, for example, has a mayor, but it's a part-time position.
But Troy also has a...
Troy has a full-time mayor.
They have a full-time mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
The larger cities, it makes sense to have, a full-time mayor. And, some people say, well, I'd rather have an elected CEO because they're going to be accountable every 4 years to the voters. A city manager is not accountable to the voters; they're accountable to the board.
What about Birmingham? So they're within our viewership. So they have a
Birmingham has a part-time mayor.
Part-time mayor
Yes,
and a
full-time city manager.
And so how are those roles? The city manager is managing all the staff.
Yes.
And the part-time mayor does what?
I mean, it handles more of the political things, the meetings, sets guidelines, direction, vision, all that kind of stuff, but it's a part-time position.
Okay.
And they go to all the ceremonial things that a mayor would go to.
And that's elected.
That is
not appointed.
That is elected. Now, in the case of Birmingham, they don't elect the mayor. They elect their city council, which I think they call commissioners.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the body, the 7 commissioners, elect a mayor from among themselves. So the mayor is not directly voted on by the residents, and in Birmingham they typically do a rotation. So the mayor will be mayor for a year or 2 years, and then it'll rotate to somebody else on the board.
Oh, that's good, because I thank you for explaining that, because I was always a little bit confused on when the mayor, how they were elected, because I don't remember them.
Yeah.
You don't see signs up for the mayor because the city council.
In a place like Birmingham.
In a place like Birmingham, but that's not like Dearborn's different than that. Dearborn has a working mayor.
Right. City of Detroit, Livonia, City of Warren, they have an elected mayor, and they are sort of ex officio to the council, but they work. Again, the council is like the legislative branch when you think of Congress, and the mayor is the executive branch, and so city council, in terms of the county, we have a county executive who is the chief executive of Oakland County, and there is a board of commissioners that acts as the legislative body that has to approve and appropriate the money for the budget, et cetera. But the budget process is driven by the county executive.
Yes. Okay, Professor Schostak.
Yes.
So what is the question on the exam?
Well, so
you used to teach this, right? What was the class that?
Well, I used to teach finance.
You used to teach finance.
Yeah.
So was this a piece of the finance discussion that you would have?
No,
I'm
naturally curious, and since I joined the board, I joined the township board. I joined the board of the Bloomfield Historical Society because I'm really interested in history, and I'd encourage all of our viewers and residents to check out the website. There's amazing things on there related to our history and stories, old documents, things like that. If you're interested in that, we partner with the library also, so we do a lot of we have exhibits at the library, obviously our township library. But I guess the point that you started out by saying is, well, what's the difference between a city and a township? Fundamentally, a city has home rule powers, which means they can do anything they want except what the state government says they can't do. So for a city, the state says you can't do this, you can't do that, but it's very limited to what they can't do. For a township, it's the exact opposite. It's can do, which means that the state tells us what we can do, and if the state doesn't explicitly allow us to do it, we can't do it. So, for example, a township cannot really levy an income tax, not that we would here, of course, but that's reserved to cities. And so And it came again. It was designed as a form of limited government, and
Okay.
so what we do, we don't own our roads. We don't manage our roads. That's managed by Oakland County. We happen to be one of the few townships that manages our own water utility, but most townships do not have their own water utility. They're part of a regional, utility or anything like that, and so they have very limited things that they do. And as a result, like you said earlier, tax rates are lower than you'd see in a city. In fact, we're statutorily limited to 10 mills for the township, whereas the city can go up to 18 or more.
So, but this is also why that there's special assessments, more
Correct.
frequent. They don't happen in cities because
Correct.
cities take care of everything through
Right.
their higher tax rate.
Correct.
And our residents have special assessments for roads sometimes, and in this
Roads and
case,
water, yeah.
the water is one of the thing
Any
that we
new
talk
infrastructure.
about. Okay.
And again, in the case of subdivision roads, which is what we're talking about, the roads are owned by the county, but they are maintained. We maintain them because we have a roads division and a roads millage that supports that.
Yeah.
But we don't reconstruct roads. If a road needs to be reconstructed, that needs to be done by the county, but it needs to be paid for by the residents who live there and who will benefit from it.
Right. And I think this is a good discussion for us to have, and we're going to have it over and over again, because I know as we do the strategic plan, that it's one of the points of the people are asking for is that they want roads to be maintained, I'll just say, in a better way, and that's not really something. And we do have our roads division, but we can't maintain all the roads because we don't own all the roads, and that expectation is not a realistic expectation because we are a township, not a city.
Correct. So we have a maintenance contract with the County Road Commission to maintain our roads, but basically that limits us to street sweeping, minor pothole patching, plowing during the winter, and that's pretty much it. In terms of major reconstruction of roads, that's not something we can legally do because they're owned by the county.
Yeah.
When residents want to get together and do a special assessment district to reconstruct their roads, again, that deal is with the county. It's not with us. We facilitate it,
Right.
and we use our AAA credit rating to get lower borrowing costs for our residents, so that those that want to finance their assessment can do so over 15 years. And so, that's the limit that we're involved in, is just the financing of it. But otherwise, it's through the county. And the water function, same thing. We have I think you're speaking about a neighborhood that has been on a well. They've been on a community well now for their existence,
Yeah.
and that well is failing, and they need to move to city water. And so we need to build out all of the infrastructure within their neighborhood to do city and water and sewer. And that's historically, it hasn't happened in a while, but the last time it was done, and the times before that, it was always through a special assessment that the residents themselves paid for the infrastructure.
Sure. Any final thoughts today before we close?
I'd encourage everybody to vote on August 6th, and that in addition to our millage, there are several primaries that are important. U.S. Senate, I could think of one that both sides, Republicans and Democrats, have a primary for that. So I'd encourage everyone to get out and vote. And if anyone has any questions on the millage proposal, we'll be happy to answer them as best we can. And
Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
Thanks for joining me. Thank you for watching, and we'll have this conversation again.
Yeah.
But it was all really great information. I learned so much when I talked to you, and eventually I'll be able to explain tax rates, and I'll understand what you do more, and also what assessing does.
Yeah.
By a couple of years from now, I'll have it all. I'll have it all up here, and then I
Yeah.
can explain it. So thanks for joining me.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for joining Coffee with Carrie. We'll see you next time.